All right, I think we can get started. Since this is a Zoom call, so feel free to interact with each other, ask questions on the chat. Yeah, and this is not like a full-on presentation. We intended to be more of like an open forum for discussion, just to share knowledge from our experience and um, on just how to read EPD and HPD and maybe what they are. So everyone's on a different level of understanding it, but we probably at this point have heard of it in some extent. Some people may have more intense understanding of it. So this is why we decided to host this. So if you have any questions, please just put it on the chat. And for just if you're here for AIA credits, please make sure you have your name typed in on actually just your name on your little screen. I don't know what to call it. So we can get you the number. So today we have Unali Patel, and she is with Gensler San Jose. She is a technical designer in the office licensure team lead at Gensler San Jose. She is a passionate advocate for sustainable practices and committed to explore and implement sustainable practices and continuously seeking ways to make building more environmentally friendly. Some learning objectives here for the credit to understand the purpose and significance of EPD and HPD documents in the context of sustainable materials and responsible decision making. Develop the skills to critically evaluate the credibility and reliability of EPD and HPD, ensuring accurate and transparent information. Learn to identify and prioritize the key performance indicators with EPD and HPD documents that are most relevant to your specific needs, projects, or sustainability goals. Discover how to effectively use the information from EPD and HPD to make informed decisions, select materials, and drive sustainable practices in design and construction. So just briefly, just agenda for today. We did our intro 5 minutes, and I do want to just do a shout out to the COTE committee. We have been meeting for the last 3 years, and we meet every month on the last Friday at noon. So if you're ever interested in joining and you have something that you wanted to contribute or some good topics, please reach out to me or Renati or just Veronica in the AIA chapter. So, and here I think we can get Unadi starting on the introduction of EPD. And I think before that, I almost forgot, we have a poll. So let me launch the poll and see if it shows up. So we have a couple questions to ask. The first one is, do you know about EPD? Simple yes or no. Do you know about HPD? And the third question, have you worked on any projects where you use EPD or HPD? So I'll just give like 10 more seconds. Okay, everyone got their answers. So I think I'll end the poll. Most of you are familiar with it for EPD, but HPD is like a half-half. And have you worked on any projects where you use EPD or HPD? It's also a half-half. Let's see if we can get the results. You guys see the results?
Yeah, Vanny, we see them.
Great, yes. So you can see most people know about EPD, but some people are not familiar with HPD. And project-wise, it's like a half-half. Okay, back to you, Munadi.
Thank you, Fanny. Okay. Now that I see we have like 50% of like knowledge of EPD and HPD, so we will jump into EPD first and see like what it is. So a little bit of the background of EPD. It's stands for Environmental Product Declaration, and usually it communicates the environmental performance of or impact of any product or material over its lifetime. And usually EPDs are based on life cycle assessments, and that consider various factors like material extractions, consumptions, emission, and waste generation during the manufacturing, its usage, as well as its disposal. So the entire life cycle of the material. So I think to understand EPD properly, we need to understand the life cycle assessment concept. So what is life cycle assessment? Basically, it's like entire life cycle of a product material with a systematic analysis of its environmental impact over the course of its life. And there are like 3 types of LCA assessments. The first one is cradle to cradle, which is like ideal, which close the entire loop, and the disposal of that product will be some kind of recycling process. The second is cradle to gate, which means that it's the assessment of the product's life, like it's the partial assessment of the product's life, and from its extraction process to the factory gate before it goes to the consumer. And the third type is cradle to grave, which is like a full circle of the resource extraction to manufacturing, and where product doesn't end up in recycling, it goes back to the, like it goes to the landfill or just some kind of disposal process. So these are basically 3 types of life cycle assessment we see in our industry. And so start like to go back to EPD, what is it? So its definition is like, it defines by ISO, International Organization of Standardization, 14025, which will usually come up in your EPDs when you look at it. And it defines as quantifies environmental information on the life cycle of the product to enable comparison between products fulfilling the same function. So a detailed report of the energy use and emissions surrounding the manufacturing of a product, in addition to the packaging, extraction, transportation, processing of related raw materials. Architects regularly reference this rigorously produced data. And EPDs are usually third-party verified. What are the benefits of EPD? So usually it gives you the transparency in selecting the materials, and you get the, like by just comparing two different products by the EPD, I guess you can make informed decision in your project, and just overall have a good material choices in your project. Second is EPDs are also sometimes it's a requirement for a LEED, so you can also get certified for LEED or WELL or any other green building certification. Third is EPD usually creates this transparency throughout the supply chain in the industry. And because of this transparency, I feel like manufacturers also focuses on improving their processes and their material and the supply chain. Also, EPD can be a tool to educate and inform interior designers, architects, engineers, contractors, and also building owners. By having EPD for the products, it generally creates competitive advantage for the vendors, and it also opens up the door for new market and new products. So what to look for EPD when you get it? When you, like, if you are maybe just approving submittals, or if you are looking for EPD at the beginning of your schematic design, which is actually ideal, so you can have your material palette ready for the client presentation. So when you start looking at the EPD, the first thing, which is carbon footprint of the material, and the matrix is global warming potential. It's the important matrix in EPD, and our end goal for the EPD is to look how much embodied carbon that material has. And just to give you some background, embodied carbon is usually emissions from manufacturing, transportation, and installation of the building materials. And there is a different type of carbon also, which is called operational carbon. It usually is it defined is emission from the building usage. So for EPD, we will only focus on embodied carbon, and it's like matrix is defined in kilogram CO2 equivalent. So usually you will end up seeing this this matrix a lot in EPD. So I will deep down in like the example of EPD, and once you have that document with you, how you start looking for the information. So first step you would want to look is some general information which defines that EPD's validity, or like which defines that it has accuracy and transparency. So today I have an example of this carpet tile, and so first thing you see, usually at the front page or the maybe second page, you'll end up seeing the product type. So when you're comparing two different products, EPD, you would want to make sure that you're comparing the same product type. So basically here it says nylon 6 yarn. So if you're comparing the different product with it, just make sure that that product also is made from nylon 6 yarn. So you get the apples to apple comparison, and also look for the third-party verification. EPD is usually third-party verification, but just to make sure that, like, sometimes you also want to compare like which third-party certified it is. Other general information you'll start looking is, first thing is date of issue and validity. Of course you don't want to have EPD which is expired. If it is, you immediately let vendors know and let them know that they need to renew their EPD as soon as possible. Other thing is, you will see in your EPD after the date of issue is if it is like verified externally or internally. Ideally it is like usually it is externally, and that's what you want to make sure. And it will also note that it is ISO verified. Step 2 is you start looking for the product information. So first thing is you ensure that the product type, the exact product type you want to make sure that you're comparing the same product type. And then second is it's declared units. That means if the manufacturer is declaring the product data on the basis of 1 meter square, so you want to make sure that if the other carpet tile product also, they're comparing the EPD at 1 meter square. And the EPD, and this page also sometimes gives you LCA scope if it is cradle to grave, cradle to gate, or cradle to cradle. And then third step is LCA methodology. This is not always used. I mean, you won't use this always, but if your sustainability end goal is to look for the product which are cradle to grave or cradle to cradle, that means you would want to make sure that the LCA information is in EPD. The next step is, and again, I'll like just make sure that the product has a declared unit which is similar, so you won't end up comparing two different units. And also EPD also gives you breakdown of the LCA stages if you want like deeper knowledge of each phase and what it is about. And then main goal or end goal is to look for embodied carbon, as I said earlier. So most important thing you would look for is global warming potential. And it usually is in under life cycle assessment results. So in our industry, I think usually A1 to A3, which means it's manufacturing process to out the door to the like before it goes to the consumer. That phase is called A1 to A3. I think that's the most important phase where you want to compare the carbon embodied data with the other product. So here you can get the GWP, it's kilogram CO2 equivalent, and if your sustainability goal is to look for the entire cradle to cradle process, then you end up just add all these numbers here from A1 to all the way down to C4. But usually in all interior designing or architecture field, we end up looking just A1 to A3 because a lot of product doesn't have this kind of data yet. It's still developing. So A1 to A3 are the most like the most certain data that we have available. These are a few other information in EPD. If you want to get a deeper knowledge of it, so usually it also says like what kind of certification the vendor has. Here they also go for HPD, which we will dive later into. Then declared label. There is also CRI green label. So these are all kind of certification that vendor has for this product, which is listed in EPD. It's not always there, but this is something some vendors started adding into EPDs. And then you have all the references, like all the ISO standards where they received all the data from. And also, if you doesn't understand the LCA product process entirely, this is the interpretation they it usually includes in the EPD. So EPDs are different. Like when you search for EPDs from vendors or from other third party sources, you wouldn't see same kind of EPDs. Like sometimes you feel there are a lot of different kinds of documents regarding this EPD. So I put this example for you guys to look, just to compare like how EPDs are made, like structured. And so basically it's even if it looks different, you will end up looking for the same info as we discussed earlier. It's always issue date, validity, and then you make sure that you have all like the declared unit information here, and then make sure that you it's meter square or it's feet square, whatever you are comparing the right units. So this is just an example of how other kinds of EPDs are out there in the market. Here, I think in this EPD, they have started for the declared unit. They listed global warming potential here, but then they deep dive in each stage of the LCA. So this is for A1 to A3, which is most important, global warming potential. And they've also deep dived in other stages of the manufacturing construction process, and its usage stage and end of life stage. So this is the kind of data you will find in EPD. So far, so any questions or any comments for EPD? Yeah.
Why is the A1 through A3 phase the most important one? Is that just because it's when it's being manufactured?
Correct. I think right now in industry, we don't see a lot of data after the manufacturing process, like its usage or its disposal or recycling things. So A1 to A3 is the most important, or like generally that's the information we are looking for. It's because it is like all the products have that data, like from the manufacturing extraction process to its transportation right before it goes to the consumer. So A1 to A3 is like widely used data right now.
So I think those numbers are actually, and correct me if I'm wrong, because we're all like learning, but so far what I realize is it's kind of like a group effort. It's like a crowdsource that people are still updating and gaining these information. So I think that's why like A1 and A3 is the most available data and probably the most impactful at this point.
Correct,
And
yeah.
if I could piggyback onto that, I also, it is true that that is also the most widely available, but why that's so important is that when you're comparing these EPD numbers, you really need to be comparing apples versus apples or whatever your fruit of choice is. And since that those numbers are the ones that are most widely available, A1 through A3, then that gives us that similar baseline basically to compare a product to another product.
Yeah, and I think it will be hard, like let's say we get a product that has like A1 to let's say A5, right? There's like the entire thing. But other products we don't have that. So there's like almost like no point of comparison, even though they have the data. So I think we want to eventually get there.
Okay. Penny, can you check in the chat if we have any other questions on this one?
No, nothing yet. So yeah, please go in the chat if you have any questions, and yeah, I'll monitor.
Okay, all right. I think we'll go next. We'll discuss about the HPD. So HPD is a little different than EPD. It's not related to life cycle assessments of the material. And there are a lot of platforms you'll see once you Google HPD. Like I get confused all the time, like between the HPDC or declared labels. So usually HPDs are not, it's not something, it's not third party verified. It's usually vendors' own volunteering declaration of the product data. And it is related to the human and environmental health. So these are the kind of platform you'll see on online. Mostly like the most famous ones are HPDC and the declared label or the red list free certification. So what is HPD? It's for human and environmental health hazard, and it is self-declared list of ingredient in the building material by product manufacturer, and it provides a chemical inventory of the building product and characterizes the level of concern about each ingredient, and it helps identify chemical of concern, allergens, or other hazards in construction materials. So it's very useful when you are designing a health project or wellness center or projects like that. And what are the benefits of this HPD? So just having this information on the product, it creates the awareness of human and environmental health. And so we can prioritize the material that those have lower risk of the health, and we can avoid those harmful substances. HPDs also contribute to improving indoor air quality when you choose the lower hazardous materials. And when you request HPDs, designer also encourage manufacturer to disclose this information, and it creates the overall transparency in the industry. And it also encourage manufacturers to like just to have a product innovations and collaborations with other manufacturers. So this is also example of declared label. It is exactly like HPDC document, but just have a little bit different format. So when you have HPD, you'll end up having a different kinds of document. This is one example of HPD. This is actually from HPDC. It's a non-organization, non-profit organization. And they have certain kind of standards to list your material in terms of health and human health and environment aspects. So first you'll start looking for the product classification, just to make sure you like if you're selecting the materials, just to make sure that you are comparing the same product. Then again, just to check expiration date or validity of the document, because it expires maybe three or every 3 or 5 years, not sure, but vendors has to like renew them very frequently. And sometimes it also says if it is third-party verified or not. So earlier I said HPDs are not third-party verified, but if it is, in case, then you can get the credit for LEED certification. Next is, so HPD, first thing you look for the product information is the threshold, or the like what was the matrix that they tested this product at. So usually it is it is actually parts per million, and usually it is 100 ppm to 1000 ppm. 100 means they have tested their product at 0.01%, and 1000 ppm means they have tested their products at 0.1%. So the lower the number means that's the better like that's how close they get into testing all the substances. And next thing, HPD lists down all the hazardous material, and this is example of HPDC. So they have certain kind of benchmark system. So usually it is in the document. You don't have to look any you don't have to find on your own. It is always listed in the document. What are the stages of the hazardous material? So here BM4 is the preferred choice, and as you go down, LT1 or LTUNK or LTP1, they are the one which has hazardous materials. So on the front page of the HPD, you will see that information here. It says, yeah, so here it is, in this example, it's the carpeting. It says that it has benchmark or a list score LT1. That means here it says LT1 is likely benchmark 1. And if you see benchmark 1, it says avoid or chemical of high concerns. That means this product might have some kind of hazardous material which is harmful to human health. And here is the breakdown of each ingredient in that product. So basically, this is just your skincare product or your food product. When you buy it, you see the label. Just like that, you see the label of each materials, and that's called HPD. So here, earlier we saw that it has harmful materials. So this is how they list down their concerns, like in the warnings about that particular substance in that material. And then there are other types of HPD, or not HPD. This is actually declared labels. This is from Living Furniture Institute, and they use different kind of format or the requirement where you list down all your ingredients, and then they will, they will just give you the information that if it is red list free or red list approved or just declared. So what is the difference between these three categories? So first is red list free. That means they have tested their product at 100% disclosure and 100 ppm, and they have disclosed all that 100% ingredients of the product, and they didn't find any harmful chemicals. So it is listed as red list free chemicals. The second is red list approved, which means they have tested their product and disclosed 99% of the ingredient present in the product. And 1% they don't know, or they don't have more information on that. So it is not like they are not sure if it is red list free. So the second category is red list approved. And the declared is just they have disclosed all 100% ingredients, but they have found some kind of hazardous material. So if that's the case, they will just put declared here. And it also states, again, just like the HPDC document, it also says that if it is 100 ppm or 1000 ppm. And here is your ingredient list. And for HPD, there are some platforms available. I already show you example from Living Furniture Institute and declared label. And this is the HPDC, which is nonprofit organization, and they have started putting all the resources, like whatever they find within the industry. It is still developing, and they're still adding more materials to it. So you always ask your vendors if they have voluntarily declared this information, or they have some kind of document from these platforms. So this is HPD. And then next, this is, I'm talking about, I wanted to talk about EC3. So earlier we saw that EPD.
Before that, I wanted to just, I think we forgot to pause. Maybe it's later, but there are a couple questions that came in before we move on.
Yeah, go ahead.
So Alex was asking, do you have any tips for engaging with and pushing on vendors to request EPDs or HPDs? So
I would say whenever we have vendors coming in the office, I always ask for these documents. And if they don't have those information available, the next thing we are talking about EC3, you can go you can search some industry standards and show them that this is the product information, and just like having a conversation about like what is going on in the market. I feel like that encourage more to that vendor by just asking about these documents.
Yeah, I think what I did was in the whenever I talk to vendors or even for the projects, whenever we are selecting a material, we immediately ask the vendor if they have it available. And most of the time, they're either, okay, we have it, here you go. But sometimes with missing information, and a lot of times I get HPD, but not EPD, or I get other documents. And there are times that I get a response like, oh, we're working on it. So I think just to just to share awareness to these people, like, hey, and just even talk to contractors about it, like because some of the products it's not like a vendor spec. So I think contractors and subcontractors, like millware contractors, would also need to be on board. That's kind of my experience.
Mm-hmm. Yes. I think specifying products just based on these data beforehand would be a great way to, use reasonable products. Also integrating, all of this data into our submittal process. So generally, they would give you all of this data, but making sure that you get that before you sign off on the submittals could also be a nice way to have all this information handy. Even if you're not pursuing lead or well, just to make sure that you're specifying reasonable products, right? So those are some ways where we can keep a check on that.
Yeah, and one thing I wanted to note is that, so we intentionally wiped out the examples that has brand names on, because we don't want to be like, oh, let's use this is the product or the manufacturer to go for. So we intentionally wiped it out for this presentation because we cannot be biased, right? But in reality, there are a couple of vendors we know they have available, so we would go for them. And I'm hoping this will create a almost like a competition in, let's say, carpet or yeah, carpet is a good example. So because carpet is a big item, like a lot of square footage. So I'm hoping to, like, doing that will encourage other competitors to do the same to provide EPD. Does it help, Alex?
Yeah, no, it sure does. Thank you so much, and excited to learn a little bit more about EC3.
Yeah, and then another question is mine about, I'm just gonna read it since this is a recording, people may come back. I wonder if HPD is more for OSHPOT related projects, and Peggy responded, it is for all projects. Yes, it's very helpful to when doing healthcare projects, but also for single family homes. I actually did not know it. I thought it was always like a healthcare thing, and yeah, probably also for schools. And Peggy also said it was developed to enable designers to create healthy interior environments. Yeah.
Has anybody used like specifications for HPDs to for public projects where they ask for like in the approved equal clauses, like specifically call out like approved equal means hold the product to these like EPDs or HPD standards?
I have not, like, I have actually not spelled it out like that before, because I know, and maybe Peggy has more insight. I know for public bid specs, it needs to be spelled out pretty specific. Because like, I don't know if it's that easy to say, okay, I have this product with the EPD like number, and I'm expecting the contractor can find something that's approved equal. Yeah, I'm not sure how. It's a good question. I actually haven't run into that in reality.
It wouldn't be equal. This is Peggy. It wouldn't be equal necessarily because the HPD is a reflection of the chemical content of each product. So what you do is you specify, if you know you have an HPD available, then you can include that in terms of defining what you expect from in terms of submittals, and particularly for things like substitutions. So often in the specs, I will say, like in the substitutions, what you need to supply, and I will put HPD if available, just to keep it out there and to keep encouraging people to do that. I think I participated in the initial launch of the HPD in a pilot project where we had a group of, I forget how many, like 15, 20 manufacturers, and we presented them with the initial HPD form. And of course, all of them were just pretty upset because they were not wanting to declare chemical content, which would then also show that their products may be harmful because of the chemical content. It was a lot of resistance, and then a couple of big guys decided, okay, we'll try this, and they have to dig into their staff and find the staff who were able to deal with the form, and then and then publish it. I think we only had one. In the end, I think we only had one manufacturer who just couldn't bring themselves to do it, but the others did, and reluctantly. But the reality is, the more this is out there, the more pressure they are under to just do this, and it becomes a selling point. you know, in terms of sustainability, because, you know, you can say, well, it has X amount of embodied carbon. I mean, EPDs are completely different animal, but with HPD, you're really telling the customer that you know are showing, you know, you're providing healthy materials for their project.
Thanks, Peggy. That's very insightful. Thanks for chiming in. Okay, Unadi, wanna move on?
Sure. Thank you, Fanny. Thank you, Maggie. So the question, if vendor doesn't have EPD, that's when there are certain kind of platforms available, and you look that information by yourself, and you can show it to the vendor and encourage them to get the EPD certified. So EC3 is one of the tool that I have started just diving in and see what the platform is offering. Maybe Fanny can later on like just show us more into detail, but just to have an introduction to EC3 tool, like it is an industry-wide tool where they have listed down few materials, and you can go to each material and have like look at the baseline, whatever the data, how much data they have available. They have created a certain kind of baseline for each materials, and you can compare your product there. So
Just want to I just want to note that this baseline is probably a bit tiny on the screen, but this baseline is from CLF. So this is kind of
baseline.
the industry standard. So recently, like I was working on getting a LEED credit, and even the LEED requirement is just saying industry standard. So we're like, oh, what's considered industry standard? So I'm still, I think, and then realizing that this is still a very piloted and very crowdsourced like a development process. So and what EC3 does is it is open to all, like anyone and everyone can log in. You don't need to purchase any membership, I believe. And once you get on it, it would list out all the EPD available for a product. So I feel like it's a pretty good public resource when you're looking for if the product I selected has an EPD. And there's also on the side, you can add an EPD. You want me to share screen? I can do that.
Oh, yeah.
Just to make sure I'm sharing the right screen. Okay, hopefully I'm sharing the right screen. Not some crazy detail. Okay. So this is how EC3 looks like. So I'm just gonna do like a very high level, like this is how it looks like, and you can find different like concrete if it's a core and shell project, but since we're talking about like I think finishes is like easier one. You can look at flooring, carpet, and you just click next. And you can do like, oh, I want tiles. It's very, very detailed and very specific. So you can put in as much as possible information that you know proficient. So I'm just gonna do a search just for time's sake. So and you can see here are all the different carpet that has information on here. So you can click on this and they'll tell you, and you can open and download, and it's showing you how it is above or above or below the target baseline. And then this chart here, it shows you that this is the baseline. The baseline is from the average of everything collected. So it's like, let's say, I don't know, like Diva started at Grand Diva carpet, right? And she's gonna have EPD info, and she can add, I think you can add and import an EPD to the system, to EC3. So, and then kind of going back to Alex's earlier question, there was one forgot software manufacturer I was talking to. They were like, "Oh, what is the EPD?" So I think I just use this. How do you get an EPD? I just copy this link and screenshot it and send it to them just so they know. So I think this is kind of like a good resource that's available to all. It's connected and it has it has a lot of enough data to use from, and it also connects to some of the plugins that firms use to calculate LCA. Yeah, so yeah, so if you have time, feel free to sign up and take a look. But this is a good place to start when you're checking on the selected material.